So my pillow guy, Mike Lindell, is still out there promoting the idea that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from Donald Trump. And he's doing this because he believes it. And also, in my estimation, at this point, we're now a year or more than a year out. And he's sunk in a lot of money into trying to prove this. So when you're that deep into it, millions of dollars and millions of dollars into this, I mean, you're not going to just give up. You're going to keep going. It's the same thing as like when you gamble and you lose a little bit of money and you go, I'll win it back. And then that's how you become addicted and lose everything.
Is that that's what at me or
a little bit, maybe. But so Mike Lindell's out there still pushing this stuff. But this most recent clip from Mike Lindell might be Mike Lindell at his absolute best. Let's take a listen to peak MyPillow guy.
Everything you're going to see over these next 7 months to get rid of the machines. You're going to see the Supreme Court case coming out. All these great things, everybody. By the way, you can find more at frankspeech.com. I'll put that out there. There are so many. I'm more optimistic today than I have been yesterday, the day before that. I'm on an incline like this. Why? Because it's so amazing. All the things that we already have all the pieces of the puzzle. And you talk about evidence. We had enough evidence to put everybody in prison for life, 300 and some million people. We had that all the way back to November, December. But what we have are these other things that had to happen, which was all evil revealing itself. I mean, evil's popping up like pocket gophers. I mean, they pop their heads up, it's whack-a-mole, right? I mean, it's everywhere. And that all had to be revealed so that we can fix it.
So 300 something million people.
Is that most of the population of the United States?
I believe, depending on how much something he's talking about, but I will guess that 300 million something means it's more than 300 million. We're looking at a non-prison population in this country of about, let's say, 25 million people at most.
I think the chosen
there's around 330 million people in this country. That's the population of the U.S. So we're talking about imprisoning 300 million plus of them. It's a lot of Trump supporters as well, I should say. So it's not like they just want to own the libs. Mike Lindell just wants to pretty much own everybody at this point.
I think that if we're honest about the trajectory of America, that's pretty accurate. Just like, climate wars and 300 million people in jail. And that sounds like a platform a Republican could run on in at least 2000. Whoa.
At least people have guaranteed housing. I mean, it might be a little bit difficult to run the prison from that 25 million people's perspective to I guess stop some sort of uprising. You would have to make the conditions so favorable and so cushy. Make it like a Norway prison system.
I would imagine it's going to be more of like an Escape from New York situation where they just build like a wall around a portion of America that counts as the prison. And then like the people who aren't in that prison are on the opposite side of that wall. Or I guess considering how few people would be in prison, you could do it the opposite way. But I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of prison. It's not a practical thing, obviously. But I say that, but who he reminds me of here is Donald Trump when he was doing that birther shit. Because that is what this sounds like. Every few weeks, there's like more evidence. There's more stuff coming out. There's like more like secret private investigators flying to Hawaii and pulling up like birth certificates. And there's more people digging into these voting machines. And, eventually, I think he's still being sued by Dominion Voting Company, so that probably won't go away. But eventually, had that not happened, this kind of thing would go away, and he would just be remembered for that guy who like kept the torch burning within the Republican Party. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's in that primary in 2024. Assuming he's not one of the 300 million plus people in jail by then.
He might accidentally imprison himself, right? But what's amazing to me is like, what a grift those people around him have going. It must be one of the greatest grifts of all time. Like literally these like people presented themselves to him as like computer experts who found the real election data that showed it was all wrong. And they convinced him to give them millions of dollars to like help gather more of this evidence and whatever. And then he holds his big his big 3-day event, and they basically don't show up for him at the event. And then when interviewed on their own, they basically say, yeah, I mean, we have the data and it doesn't show what Mike Lindell says it shows. I mean, if I remember correctly, one of them even made enough money from him that he straight up went and bought like a multi-million-dollar mansion just with the money Mike Lindell has given him. So, I mean, what a grift they got going on here. And to steal an analogy from Tim Pool, I feel like Thanos of the Avengers would hear Mike Lindell saying 300 out of 330 million people. And even Thanos would be like, that's much too far. What are you doing?
It makes way more sense if you know how population growth works to do that many, but it probably wouldn't work out as well.